Good evening, dear ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters. Thank you very much for joining us. It's my pleasure to welcome you in our continuous educational seminars. Today, our guest speaker is Dr. Yulia Matveyeva from Kharkiv. She already presented a wonderful speech on the decorations on the fabrics as depicted on mosaics in Ravenna. The recording of her first lecture is available on my YouTube channel, which is under my name, Ilya Kotlinsky. And today, Yulia is joining us again with another wonderful presentation. As it's already past 10 o'clock in Ukraine, I'm not going to delay too much, but I'm just passing word on to her. And please sit tight and enjoy. And thank you very much again for support of our lectures, for coming again and yet again, and please stay tuned. Announcements of our new lectures are going to be posted on my Facebook page as they'll be coming along. Again, thank you, and Yulia, thank you very much for joining us, and it's all yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you again, dear friends, for joining. And today I tell you about baptistries. Let me show you my screen. And our topic is early Byzantine Baptistry, a special space to dive into mystery. And first of all, I would like to tell you that it is my favorite part of my research, which you can see in my book, Decorative Fabrics in the Mosaics of Ravenna, Semantics and Cultural Context. And I would like to give you my point of view on this research. It was really unusual because all my life connected with textiles and exactly with church textiles. It is a site dedicated to my book, and it came from practice. I know as an artist, as a textile artist, that all things in mosaics and also in church textiles, firstly were just drawings, and drawings had prototypes. And my experience when I see all the time how the object comes from drawing and sketching to the real object, to the material, it helped me to look a different way at mosaics. And I would like to share this point of view with you. And I believe it's possible to give other, to give you my vision. That is why I show you now in the beginning these little pieces of my works and exactly the process, how it was just in the beginning and in the end. And actually embroidery is very close to mosaics because in mosaics we can't mix colors as in painting. We've got little stones with different colors, and we have to think about optic mixing of colors. The same we've got in embroidery, because each stitch, it's like stone in mosaic. That is why I am very close to mosaics too. And about mosaics and prototypes. Look, from the distance, it is like a painting, but it's embroidery. The same with mosaics, but closer you can see that it is little parts of mosaics of threads. And now let's go to textiles in the mosaics. There are a lot of textiles in mosaics in Ravenna. Look, they are very natural. They depict it very natural with all details. And some of them we can recognize very easy, recognize as real objects which have prototypes, because we know the same in nowadays examples, like curtains on the doors of church, for example, like here, or on the doors of Church of St. Demetrius in Thessalonians. When we see curtains in mosaics, it is very easy to understand what is it, because our experience even today very close to it. But when we come to another objects, when we come to baptistry, it is like mystery, because there are curtains, there are textiles, and we can't understand what was the real prototype of them. And actually, before my research, the point of view of on these pieces of textile around the central medallion was like it is just decorative pieces of textiles. It's just border of decoration. It is decorative border to connect the central medallion with the second register with apostles. But today I am going to show you that if we understand these little pieces of textiles, we can open a big tradition of mystery, of baptism mystery, with a lot of peculiar features and deep, interesting details. So let's start to research it. First of all, I would like to tell you about the building of baptistry. It is not very big, you see, and it's an octagonal building. When you enter inside, in front of you, there is a baptismal font. It's like this. And when you lift your head up, you see this fantastic cupola. At once, you feel changes, because when you look up, you stop feeling that building is very little. It's like a mystery. And also, these mosaics are very, very impressive. When I have written my book, I started to to have a lot of conversation with people who written me about their feelings in mosaics of Ravenna. And about these mosaics, they were more evidence than about another. And I would like to tell you some examples. One priest says, when I entered in the Orthodox Baptistry and I lift my head up, I looked up at cupola, suddenly I felt that it is feeling of flying, and I am losing feeling of the flow, and it was so easy to fly that I had a fear and stopped look up. Or another woman, for example, she's a researcher of Byzantine painting and art, and once she entered at this baptistry, and when she looked up at cupola, she also had this kind of feeling, like everything is in carousel, and you start to fly, like you are in tube. And she told, sorry, I'm very old and I really need to watch this mosaic for a long time. Please, can I lay on the floor and watch? Yeah. Yes, and she had permission, and she was watching in this position, horizontal position, this mosaic for some hours. So you can see that it make very intensive, deep impression. And what is the secret of this? Actually, this impression, it is just evidence that we are in front of very serious art. And maybe you know that these mosaics are in heritage of UNESCO. So they are not just very, very important. They are also so impressive that they still now gives this energy. And if it is so professional, so serious, it can't be that something is occasional here. But for me, it is questions about these textiles around. In center, we see medallion with baptism of Christ. Around him, we see apostles who are going to him. And we can see also two strange things. These pieces of textiles, and between apostles, we see these strange plants or columns. We can't understand because they are so fantastic that we can't find something in our experience to understand prototype. So we need hypothesis. And I propose you to look at this as at curtains are the curtains of Ciborium. I know that it is very unusual to think like this, because its cupola, it's so big, could be big, could be curtains so big, so huge, to cover all cupola, and why? But let's try to research it. And first of all, we have to know something about Ciborium. Ciborium for Byzantine time was usual object, and as usual it was with curtains. Ciborium had antique meaning and antique roots, but all this came into Christian culture, and in Christian culture it kept its meaning, and Ciborium is eminently image of heaven, glorification and triumph. There are a lot of pictures of Ciboria, but there are not a lot real Ciboria as evidence. Especially, we can't find Ciboria with curtains, with first original curtains now. And about Ciboria, there is one more important thing. Ciborium was placed just in four in important places. This meaning, image of heaven, glorification and triumph, helped to show, to zone sacral space. So just 4 places where the first one, Ciborium above altar. In its antique tradition, we can see antique examples. For example, here you can see on these coins vestals around the altar, and against the background there is the temple of Vesta, and this temple is depicted as a Ciborium covering the statue. So Ciborium was their model of temple. It was like a symbol of temple, and both symbol and model. Why? Model can have function the same as big prototype. So Ciborium could work as real temple. Ciborium is enough to have altar. And there were a lot of shapes of Ciboria. They could have different kinds of columns, could be more or less columns. The shape of roof could be also different, but the meaning was always the same. It's covering sacral space. and about shapes. Like here, you can see columns are there they are as women, and roof is also in another shape, but it is altar, unknown altar, and it has to be covered. Or this example, you can see that Ciborium is in absolutely another style and shape, but the meaning is the same. It is above the altar. It is Ciborium above Osiris sarcophagus and altar. Another real example, the cover Ciborium above the altar in the garden of Domitius Octavius Quadrius' home in Pompeii. When we look at these examples, it seems that Ciborium is just to building is architectural form to cover sacral space from the weather, for example, because all of previous examples were outside. But if it is inside, will it be the same construction? And really, yes. Look, it's room, it's interior, it's inside of house, and the altar, the domestic altar, is covered by Ciborium. So first place is altar, second place Ciborium above tomb. And I again show this picture because it is both altar and sarcophagus. So it's tomb and it's covered. And in Christian tradition was absolutely the same. For example, here it is burial place of John the Evangelist in the ancient church of Virgin Mary, 5th century in Ephes, Turkey. And it is burial place and also altar. And we can see that there was Ciborium above this. And even sepulchre was depicted as a Ciborium. For example, here in MOSAICS, metaphors at the sepulchre, we can see that sepulchre is in the shape of Ciborium. Maybe it's just depiction. Can we find real examples? Yes, we can. A Ciborium for sarcophagus in San Marco, Venice, Italy. So here it is the place for sarcophagus. And it was very, very old tradition. Why is the place of tomb sacral? Because it is the last place where a live person can come to the border of death. And from the other side, it's also the last border where death person can come. And this border is sacral. It is impossible to cross it. Only God can cross this border. And it's very interesting that people understood this border not as a line. They understood it as a space. That is why Ciborium is always like a little room. Even stone tombstone has this shape. For example, this ancient tombstone with a ciborium above. It's from our archaeological museum in Palermo in Italy. It looks like usual antique portico, but you can see there is space inside. This border is not line, it is sacral space. And Roman people, in their culture, they got used to see tomb like this, like Ciborium. And Ciborium was their symbol of tomb. That is why even in catacombs, when they want to paint it, their subjects of Evangelia, they used this shape. For example, here, look, it's resurrection of Saint Lazarus. And now we know that in New Testament, we read that Lazarus, when he was resurrected by Christ, he went out of his tomb, which was cave. But for Roman people, was very natural to show it as a portico, as Ciborium, because their tombs, they had this sign, Ciborium above the tomb. So after knowledge about antique tradition of tomb and Ciboria, you will see in absolutely another way this example from catacombs. So for us today, it is not very understandable. We don't feel their evidence of resurrection. But for Roman, it was very close to their visual experience, and they felt better exactly in this way. And after that, you will see in a new way depiction of Christ under Ciborium. It's glorification, and it's also going out of tomb. It shows that he conquers death, and just little Ciborium, little roof above and 2 columns could give this new information. And it was also good idea for preaching, because only on this picture it was possible to talk about resurrection of Christ and about his conquering death and his glorification. At that time, we can find even empty Ciboria. For example, like here on this sarcophagus. In the middle, in the center, there is Christ as a symbol and monogram. he is under Ciborium, and you know this meaning. It means he conquers death, and he is going out from tomb, and he is in glory, and it is sacred border which he can cross because he is God, but he is also a human. That is why all who followed him could leave their tomb, leave their Ciboria empty. So empty Ciborium is a symbol of resurrection. This example I like very, very much because it's empty Ciborium, and it's a resurrection because Christ is above the tomb. So it's glorification and new life. So altar, first place, tomb, second place, third place is triumphal Ciborium above emperor throne. Emperor was a person who was elected by army, usually after triumph, and it was his covering shows also that he conquered enemies, and all military people know that that victory is not just result of your skills, your knowledge, your army, but also it's blessing of God. That is why emperor was covered also Ciborium, especially when he is on his throne. And we can see examples even with curtains. And after emperor, this depiction had empresses, for example, like this. And you can see beautiful curtains which are around of columns. So it was third place. And the last one, Ciborium above spring and well. It was also sacred space. Why? Because water, especially in Mediterranean area, it is a rare thing, and it will be in place where God gave, and not in the place where human people want. That is why it was covered. Here you can see one of the oldest example. It is 449 year AD. And also in language of art, it came from life. For example, here, Ciborium over a spring. You can see very beautiful Ciborium and spring under that. And they were so, Ciborium and spring were so close with meaning that sometimes spring or chalice with water could be above the Ciborium. Very unusual example like this. Look here, spring, water, and it is on the roof of Ciborium. Why? What is under Ciborium here? And here is a canon table. What is it? In this table was coding, encoding all the liturgy. And in Byzantine time, priests could look at this table and know their way of liturgy. And liturgy is the source where there is Christ, where there is communion, and it is source of life. That is why we've got this symbol above. And actually, we know example like this from describing Ciborium in Hagia Sophia in Constantinople. There was also a construction where above Ciborium there was chalice, and from the chalice went out up Christ. Cross, and he was, of course, symbol of Christ. So, Ciborium above Christian altar, it collected all these four meanings. Ciborium under altar, because Christian altar, it's sacral space, and Christians couldn't imagine how can it be if we cover other sacral spaces and we live without Ciborium, the most sacral space. So above the altar. And second meaning, above the tomb, because altar is also tomb of Christ, the place of his death and resurrection. It is also throne of Christ, and as place of resurrection, it is place of his conquer, his victory. And it is also place of the spring of the life, because Christ is on his self spring of the new life. So you see, all four meanings, all four places are together in Christian altar and in Ciborium. That is why it was so important. And Ciborium and curtains. We remember that there is meaning of heavens, and it was about Ciborium. But what about curtains? Curtains always together with Ciborium had this meaning, because it was impossible to imagine Ciborium without curtains. And even when in depiction there is just Ciborium and there is no curtains, they were. And we can reduce them, because for all the people was usual that curtains were. Look, it's also Ciborium, because there are columns, first, second, and behind there are curtains, and they are always connected with something from heaven also. Look, for example, here with clouds, and there are a lot of examples like this. And actually, their textile and cloud, they had a lot of common things with covering, with being soft, light, with moving from air, for example. So they had a lot of common. And more detailed, a lot of evidence about this you can read in my book. And for curtains, we can see these sticks in Ciborium, and it seems they were so big. Look, it's huge. Could it be curtain like this? And really, yes. Today it's very difficult to imagine, but look, there is curtain on the front of the temple of Fortuna. It's a Nile mosaic, and actually it is so big that the construction of this curtain they took from sail. If you look here near, the sail has the same lines. They were to make this curtain durable, rigid, to keep strong wind, and also the weight of a huge piece of textile. So technology were the same, and it was useful even for church. And the evidence to this we can find in texts when the synonyms of curtains coming from sails, or verbs which usually used for sails are using for curtains. And it's clear that they were close to each other because even terminology were the same. So curtains and Ciborium together, and they are so together that sometimes all Ciborium could be created just from piece of textile, even roof. Look at this example. It is their cover above Achilles, making a sacrifice, and above him the most simple Ciborium which could be. Usually it was kind of military Ciborium. You see, it is 5th century, so it is Byzantine miniature, Byzantine manuscript, and it's Ilias. So it is like Byzantine artist imagined their Ilias. So of course they took the prototypes from their life and their experience. So what about this Ciborium? The easiest. The whale was constructed out of 3 spears and a fabric placed on them. how did they do that? They just took 3 spears and put it in ground and covered with fabric. And to keep fabric on these spears, they used shields. You see them. It's not decoration, it's a useful thing. If you imagine a shield from another side, not from outside, but from the side of the hand, there are 2 loops, one little for hand and one bigger for arm. And with this loop, they open, they put it on the spears, and little loop keep tidy up of the tent, and bigger loop let the curtain, the fabric, to be free with these beautiful pleats, you see. And even there are tassels on this textile. So easy, fast, and we see that. We can think that maybe it's just for military or just one case with this manuscript in Ilias, but not. We've got examples like this even in church. This mosaic with Saint Demetrius shows us that above him there is exactly ciborium, which is built only from a curtain, green curtain. It's basically the same practice, but there are columns. And we see pleats and even a little tassels. So the practice was usual, and it came to iconography. Also, practice of tents, of creating tents, helped to find a lot of types of construction of ciborium from textiles. For example, this miniature gives us very interesting information, because you see here lines, horizontal and vertical, and it tells us that this tent, emperor's tent, is very, very huge. Why? Because only huge piece of textiles need this line to make curtain durable and rigid. The same as we have seen in sails and in this very big curtain. That everything, we look at examples in art, but was something in texts which tells us the same story and the same information. And really, yes, Bible tradition gives us a lot of examples of it. Sorry, just a second. For example, here, I put here 2 texts, 2 versions, King James Version and New American Standard Bible. They are a little different. about God, who covers the self with light as with a garment, who stretches out the heavens like a curtain. Look, heavens like a curtain. Ciborium, heavens, and curtain here in text also heavens. It's King James version, and in American Standard we've got here in brackets tent curtain. Why? If we look at this text in Greek, here there is therein puzzled us more, even more. Why? Because therein it is not curtain, it is not tent, it is skin. And only text of only Masoretic text can explain what is here. And in this place there is word yeria. Yeria, it is textile of tent, and usually it used about tabernacle. So it is not just curtain, it is textile of curtain of tabernacle. It's very, very important. So the heavens are curtains of sacral temple, the first temple, the temple which is God told create. And after these words, look at pictures of Ciborium. Look, you see inside it is sky with stars, and the construction inside is like a tent. And actually there were curtains here. Are the example in texts that stretcheth out the heavens as a curtain, and spreadeth them out as a tent to dwell in. It's from Isaiah. And let's look at the same Ciborium from inside. And is it only Bible tradition, or there is also Christian tradition, New Testament tradition, theological tradition of point of view like this? And yes, there is Ciborium not only in Ciborium and curtains, not only in Bible texts, but also in John Chrysostom texts. For example, like this. John Chrysostom was worried about people who have to prepare yourself in a proper way to come in for communion. And he says, when you see that curtains are rising, know that the heavens are opening and angels are descending from above. This moment is moment before communion. Look, curtains are rising and heavens are opening. When you look after that, here you feel that it's exactly this moment. And we have seen that curtain could be so big. Just question about these strange columns. They are very thin to keep cupola. If it is Ciborium, columns are very thin, very strange, very pale. But we have to know that there were tradition where there was no columns with Ciborium at all. We can see, so columns could be even absolutely decorative because cupola could fly. We can see that in mosaics there are a lot of examples like this. Cupola is flying. There is no columns. And this depiction we can find in real objects in church, but later. Look, the suspended Ciborium from Church of the Holy Mandilion. It's the early 12th, 20th century. Or also in Italy, it's also suspended canopy above the holy table. There in the Cathedral of St. Alexander, Bergamo, in Bergamo. Look closer to this. They are flying, and it is not necessary to have strong columns. And actually, there are reduced signs of curtains. Here, there were curtains, and we see tassels and festoons from them here and here and here. And actually, if we find parallel with sails again, when sail is in position up, we can see exactly the same kind of drawing, kind of shape of textile. I remind you, it's for example like this or like this. It's exactly the same that we see in Ciboria. But there are other examples with the same festoons and tassels. And there are much more, even much more. So let's return to John Chrysostom. He says about opening curtains as about opening heavens. And there is one more. For me, it's very important to show you statistic that it is not just one case. There are a lot of them. This is old translation, and it seems to be a very old-fashioned English, and I created new translation, and I will show you also it with Greek text. So John Chrysostom says, thus, when one sees the throne only of a king, one's soul rises up, exciting the king's coming forth. And even before that thrilling moment, you yourself accordingly thrill with awe, rise up yourself. And before you see the curtains drawn up and the choir of angels marching forth, ascend yourself to the very heaven. I show you this text in table. It is Old text, New text, and Greek. John Chrysostom is really Chrysostom because he, in his words, it's like a bell. He again and again says about rising up, resurrection, and I put it in bold to let you see. Enistate psyche. It's like resurrect, rise up, but also it's the same verb in Greek with resurrection. And dianastasi, it's the same root, but with other prefix to underline it again, to highlight it, this meaning. Rise up your soul, rise up yourself. And the curtains, before the curtains drawn up, and here in old text it was drawn aside, and it broke all this meaning of rising, resurrection. That is why I put the curtains drawn up, because in Greek, parapitasmata, there were a lot of synonyms for curtains, and some of them were katapitasmata. Kata, prefix which says us about direction down, and para, direction up. And here, not just curtains, it's parapitasmata, so curtains which drawn up. And the verb for them is also which is rise up, anastelomena. And you also yourself ascend to the very heaven. Anavene, it's imperative, ton uranon. So you see that it's very, very impressive words. So not only artists created this line, it was also in Bible. Also, it's connected with Bible and continued in theology. And you see, now with this meaning, you understand that it's opening heavens. But in baptistry, we know about rising curtains in altar. And here it's baptistry. Could it be Ciborium in baptistry? And is it just one example, or there are other? And really, there were other examples. Look, it's in Napoli. And you can see the same construction, architectural construction. It's a Ciborium with columns, and there are curtains which are raised up. And here curtains are very, very beautiful. They are depicted with a lot of details. We look at them and we feel the weight of textile. We see that it's rich fabric with golden bands here and in the middle, and with very very beautiful pleats. And what does it mean all together? Look, we've got two very big baptistries, and in the middle there is medallion with Christ and with rising up curtains. And did really were ciboria above their baptismal font? And really it was true. Look, for example, here it is evidence of archaeology, and it is baptismal font and the verse Ciborium. And actually the earliest Christian Ciborium was exactly above the baptismal font. It's Indura Evropus, and it's circa 230 AD, the youngest Ciborium in Christianity. And look, it is also it is also with sky inside, and this sky is very textile because the character of these stars are like in textile objects, as we usually see in textile objects, because there is rhythm. The stars are very decorative. They have their order, and they look like a little bit like flowers. So it is sky, which is light of God's garment. I can talk about this a lot. This word garment in Greek, it is gimation. And gimation, you know, it is a garment without seam, it's seamless. So it is also piece of textile which is light of God, and God take it and create heavens from this. So Ciboria above the baptismal font are traditional thing, very, very old tradition. What did they mean? Look, there is one more example. Did they connect it exactly with mystery of baptism? When we look at this Ciborium and baptismal font, we see this down staircase. And when we remember that Ciborium also is the sign of tomb, it is like a staircase in a burial vault. Do we have something like this in texts? And really, yes. We've got words from the Apostle Paul. He says, therefore, we have been buried with him through baptism into death, so that as Christ was raised from the death through the glory of the Father, so we too might walk in newness of life. So it is really going to death and then resurrection. That is the meaning of mystery. And in baptismal font, it was very, very clear, because you go downstairs, down the ground, like in burial vault. And these stairs, the baptismal font had. And if we return to this meaning in our baptistry, Orthodox baptistry of 5th century, we find that really it is something absolutely new experience. And Ciborium here is very, very important. And let us just imagine how it could be in that time. In early Byzantine time, the mystery of baptism was just twice a year, for Easter and for Christmas. That is why people were prepared yourself during all the year. And maybe the mystery could be late evening or even at night. So they entered to the baptistry, and they were very concentrated. Maybe they kept their hands crossed on their chest, like we do before communion, to show that we died for our previous life with our mistakes. And they entered, and they see in front of yourself the symbol of Ciborium. They entered into baptismal font. They dive into the water, and they got in space without light, without air, without life, and under the ground. It was death. And then they emerge, and their first moving with this emerging. When you emerge, you lift up your head for the first breath, and they lifted up their heads and see these mosaics, and they see that the heavens are opened for them because of these raised up curtains, and it is start of new life. And this feeling of flying, which people feel even now. And also, next step is thinking and understanding. In the middle, Christ, and he also baptized. And his baptism opened for us heavens. And now they are baptized, and for them heavens are opened. And actually, it was not only baptism, it was also Trinity, because in baptism, God shows himself in Trinity. First time, Son is baptized, Holy Spirit in image of a dove was above, and the Father God evidenced about the Son. So God opened himself for us with baptistry, and our baptistry opened for us heavens also. And then they see apostles who are examples of Christian life, and a lot of rooms prepared with New Testaments and with armchairs, which were used for episcopes and ecimasias. So all the heavens were opened there. It made so deep impression that people might remember that during all their life. And it helped them not only to dive into mystery of baptism, it helped them to feel this new life with God and to keep this feeling, this experience, this mystical experience during all their life. Because to be a Christian, it is not easy thing. So it was really start of new life. And can you imagine that the little pieces of textiles have just told us this amazing story? Now you see that even little details could open very big world. This is my favorite story from Stories of Textiles, and actually it is on the hardcover of my book here. And if you want to read about this more detailed with texts, with more illustrations, you can read there. Actually, I was written for that, to be able to show exactly all evidence and all pictures, and also not forget for myself, because it is the world, it is a lot of information. So I believe that from now, for you, the world of baptistries will be absolutely another mysterious space. Thank you very much for your attention and being patient. If you've got questions, please.
Yes, thank you very much, Yulia. Maybe you can stop sharing the screen so we could see you. Thank you for a wonderful presentation. Dear friends, if you have any questions for our guest, you're most welcome to raise your hand, and I'll be happy to turn your mic on. So if you would like to ask any particular questions. Meanwhile, I do have a question. Yulia, you were talking about baptistries in more of an imperial cities, in you know, like Ravenna, and examples in North Africa, and basilicas in Porridge, you know, that were very well endowed cities and great bishoprics, great ecclesiastical centers. What were happening in your mind in smaller places, somewhere on the periphery? Would they apply the same rules, or what? How would they go about it? How would they go about it? Did they? Was the uniformity that you can confirm from your research, or it was somehow done in a much more simpler way?
In my opinion, there was no the same practice everywhere, because world didn't connect it so close as it today. So it was impossible. But we can see even in little places the same practice. We can see Ciborium above. I show just a second. For example, oh, sorry. In Tunisia, it is not central place. Oh, where it is here. Can't understand why it. I try like this. Oh, here. It is not a big place. Or here in Israel, or Dura Evropus. It is not big church. It is just house for praying. But organization of space, we see it's the same. So I think they understood the meaning of death and resurrection for new life in baptism mystery. It's my opinion.
Thank you very much. Yeah, that's a beautiful example. I've seen imagery from that before. Yeah. How about also the examples that coming from Tunisia and Algeria, from Northern Africa, where you can see very lavish rounded baptistries? Would they act in the same fashion, or there would be something different about it? You know, that there won't be of a traditional cross shape or this elongated shape, but there would be more as if of unevenly shaped octagons with multiple set of stairs descending. I'm unfortunately, I don't have a picture to demonstrate, but maybe you know what I'm talking about.
Yes, I understand. And actually, we've got baptistry in this shape. It's octagon. You mean this one? Do you mean this one? And baptismal fonts are octagons, and their buildings are in this shape. But it is not, there is no unification. I think there is no just one example for everybody. We see very different examples, and in details we can't imagine this, because for details we need texts. We need something more than just art and quotation from Bible and Christian theology. Maybe we will know later.
Thank you very much. I just tried to find the picture real quickly, but I wasn't able to. But maybe I'll send it to you in a private message. Franz, if you have any questions for Yulia, please, raise your hand or drop me a message, and I'll turn your mic on. If not, Yulia, as always, thank you for an amazing presentation. That's certainly absolutely fantastic, and very rich in connection to the previous, pagan practices as they were, and adaptation and transformation within the Christian context. I'm thinking it's a very important part of the discussion. There's certain continuity and understanding of holiness as we humans could express it. But thank you again for pointing this out as well. And dear guests, thank you very much for attending this presentation. If you'd like to purchase a book from Yulia, or you can contact her directly on Facebook platform, or I'll be most happy to provide you with her email so you can order her publication. Meanwhile, again, thank you very much for attending, and I'll be looking forward to see you during our next lectures. Tentatively, our next lecture is scheduled for July 11th, as next week is July 4th, so big celebration. People will be preoccupied with multiple other things. But I'm very happy that you made it this week, and I thank you for attendance, for your time. And until I'll see you next time, please stay healthy and be well. And Yulia, thank you very much for your time and your knowledge and expertise. And God bless and be well.
Thank you. Thank you.